All right, we're here for another fun episode of Life on the Ave, and we're on the Ave today. We're at the office.
We're on Scott Street today.
Scott Street.
Scott Street side.
Yeah, so we're in our backyard. I was thinking, Patrick texted me this morning and said, where do we want to do the podcast? And I was like, well, we're only getting colder. We don't have many shot to be outside.
I know. We spent a pretty penny on this backyard. Got to use it.
Got to use it. So here we are in our fun backyard. Here for another fun little episode of me and Vincent talking about us and our life and our business. And I thought him and I are at a definite turning point in our life, our relationship, our family, our business, kind of looking at each other like, what's the next step? Mm-hmm. And I thought now would be a fun little check-in with you. And, a fun little Ask Vince episode.
Heck yeah.
Asking you some questions, the hard-hitting questions that probably no one wants to know, but I do somewhat look at this podcast as like a little time capsule of our life, and maybe this will be a fun episode we look back on someday and laugh about. So are you ready?
Yeah, I'm definitely ready. And one thing prior to that, I do say this on sometimes because a lot of people that we interview, like, hey, this is, their only podcast ever. And I listened to a podcast, unfortunately had a good family friend pass away, and it was so cool. He's got a 90-minute podcast recapping his lacrosse experience and talking about lacrosse from the 70s all the way up through I played with his sons, and like that's such a cool, like his voice is captured in that. And I look at what we do, it's a digital scrapbook of everything we do. So we do our little
chat books. Hopefully our kids like it someday.
Yeah, hopefully our kids like it someday.
Probably not.
Yeah,
they'll be like, mom and dad are so cringe.
It's so cringe. But
dads are most of our audience probably saying that.
Yeah, but this is cool to like look back on what we've done and accomplished, and still have left to do. And yeah, I'm excited for this.
They'll watch this and be like, why are mom and dad matching? Always.
I didn't know this was happening today, so I'm excited for it. So
it's been on the calendar.
I didn't know this like setup was happening today. Backyard, me, yada yada yada.
Always keep you on your toes.
Yeah, keep me on my toes.
So we're gonna dive into the life of Vince Garman, and sorry if there's any background noise. We are outside, so bear with us. But I'm gonna just ask you some questions about you, and mostly real estate related. But you didn't get these questions ahead of time. These are very much on the spot.
No, I like being on the spot.
I know
you get the true blue, honest reaction. Yeah.
I know you do. So that's why I planned it. Okay. So let's get into the hard-hitting questions. Let's start with number one. Why did you become a real estate agent?
I became a real estate agent because I had basically no other options. No other options. So we have a good family friend, Phyllis Lynch, who was posting up, hey, get your real estate license. We were working at the same company, and it was like, our mentor sat us both down after we looked at a house and put in an offer and didn't get it. And he's like, hey, that's where I started, at the beginning of my career. I think you guys could do it. Like, I don't do it anymore. I just do, this type of stuff. But, it's a good way to get in there, learn a lot about real estate, and go for it. So the question was, why did I get my real estate license? Yeah, I basically had no other options. Yeah, I didn't have, my degree. I did 4 years of college, but didn't have, my degree.
And even if you did complete that degree, your major was leadership.
Yeah. So
no knock to leadership if you have a plan, but you did not have a plan.
No, I didn't really have a plan, and it was just like, hey, like,
what?
Yeah, now what? So went ahead, got the license, and we've been rocking it ever since. And for anyone out there, who's looking into getting their license or thinking about it, you can kind of do whatever you want to do, in this realm, and, the cream is going to rise to the top. Like, the good ones are going to stay. And, if you're not going to put in the work, you're not going to do, much. So it is what you make of it. And I looked at it as, an opportunity to, just get after it.
Pave your own way.
Yeah.
Pave your own way. Okay. What would you say is the best part about being a real estate agent?
Best part about being in real estate, for me, it's kind of changed over time, like as my role has evolved in here. So I would say like the best part, I look back on, those first couple closings and, helping people out. Like I think back to like my first listing I ever sold, and it was $100,000 house in a not great neighborhood, that my guy was able to, get out of that situation. He was like, hey, like I made a bad business deal a few years ago. I've held on to this thing. It's kind of a headache. Like I want to get out of it. So I was able to solve his problem, which was cool. And then
You like problem solving.
yeah. Like helping people, solve their problems. And because, we all have our own problems. And, when you have someone who, knows what to do and like knows the solution and can hold your hand through that process, it's awesome. And, thinking back to, we've talked about this before, people buying that, first house, like, oh my God, like I can never buy a house. Well, why don't we look into it, right? Why don't you talk to this guy, see, what you're going to get pre-approved for, see houses in your budget and go from there. So, that's definitely been exciting, watching people on closing day, watching them, have their first baby in the house, watching them, do their first renovation. And, people who are just grateful and thankful for your assistance, even all these years later. Now I would say like the, most rewarding part is watching our team succeed, watching, these guys live a great life by design, go on vacations, buy real estate, and watch them, help out their friends.
Right.
And, just subtle little changes in how they talk and how they ask questions, being able to, spread my knowledge to them, and then also being able to, get back some sort of like team sense of camaraderie.
Right.
Hey, you have a problem, but you don't have to face it all alone. Right. We're going to work through this thing together.
Right.
So being able to help out our agents with, their own problems has been rewarding.
Totally agree. Yeah. Helping them buy houses, helping them buy investment properties.
Yep.
Yeah. Just spreading the knowledge. Yeah. Just as, people helped us.
Yeah. And just introducing them to, whole different, wide variety of people. So
ways of thinking.
Like we work with a lot of different vendors. So one that really comes to mind is Food Dog. So our boy Jude. So my mom uses Jude a lot. We started using Jude a lot. And now, we've pimped out is not the word, but like we've referred out Jude a ton where, Cole got some pickleball shirts from Jude. And, Patrick's done a lot of work with Jude as well too. So, being able to help out other young entrepreneurs and other, people in the business has been exciting as well.
Rise up together.
Yeah, for sure.
What would you say has been the hardest or most challenging part?
Hardest and most challenging is like the mindset. So, like learning to, detach from the outcome was a big thing. So I had a mentor, Pauletta Caldwell, who told me, hey, Vince, it's your job to deliver the news, whether it's good news, bad news. If it's good news, deliver it right away. If it's bad news, deliver it even faster. And, you don't have to make a decision for these people. You can lay out some options for them and, you can help them with their decision-making process. So learning to like detach from that outcome, where I would think, everything was like a personal attack, like, hey, our offer didn't gonna get accepted. Well, why? Because like they don't like me or something like that, and so, that's the hardest part. Learning to deal with rejection. There's a lot of rejection in this business. So, there's a lot of people, especially when you're early on in your career, who will hit you up and then, next thing you know, they ghost you and you pop up on Facebook. Oh my God, I just bought a house, right? Happened to me yesterday. I'm sitting in the
all the time. It's starting to happen to me more often. It's like heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, but you just got to be happy for those people. And, really just learn to be grateful that, hey, I'm very religious. So, hey, God put, that person out of my life in this instance. Maybe it was a headache. Maybe it was like I was, too close to them or something like that. Where, it might have changed our relationship or something along those lines. So learning to deal with, rejection. And then overall, just, hardest part is just, trying to keep this thing consistent, building a business, you never want to get too high, too low sort of deal. So just trying to be, even keeled throughout this thing. And, when the calendar flips over to January 1, you got to do it all again. So,
yeah, you definitely get a little, I don't want to say anxious. I don't think that's the word, but you get a little, antsy, or the pressure starts to build up, I think, January 1st for you.
Yeah, because like, you do great
There's no
work.
time to celebrate the previous year.
Correct.
Because the next year is coming right behind it.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And same thing. It's like, month after month, when the calendar switches to a new month, it's like, okay, here we go again. So,
Even walking out of a closing, like, okay, I closed that one. What's next?
right. Yeah. So,
Hard to celebrate the wins while also focusing on the next one.
Yeah. And that's where, learning to stay even keel, because you could be sitting with someone having the greatest experience, one of the happiest days ever. If you have a seller who had a problem property and they're walking away from it, or, a seller who's retiring and they're getting a boat ton of money and like they're all happy for the next chapter of their lives, and you walk out of there and like, you got missed calls and your texts are blowing up, and it's like, oh man, like,
right. You just want to enjoy that moment for 5 seconds, and like you're smacked in the face the second you flip that phone over.
Yeah.
And you see all the missed calls and the missed texts, and
correct.
It's hard.
Correct.
Yeah, I think you struggle with that a lot.
Yeah. And then just learning to like prioritize your time ultimately. And hey, this is, a $10-15 an hour task. I need to stop doing these, and I need to be doing, more $100 an hour task. So just learning, what works and what doesn't work. Everything works, I think. It's just finding out what works, most efficiently, and that's trial and error, going back to, the rejection stuff. So
yeah, and with the rejection stuff, I think the stuff I struggle with, like kind of going back to the people that buy houses with other agents, like obviously, like you said, maybe it's not meant to be for some reason. That path was on them. I think where I struggle with it is like the people that call us and text us and ask us a million questions, real estate advice, and then don't use us. That's like a knife in the heart. That's happened quite a few times to me. But it is what it is. You got to focus on the people that do love us and want to work with us. And yeah, it's tough. I struggle with that.
Yeah. And like, you're still very early on in like
your residential I'm so new to the residential world. Yeah.
Where, people are still, feeling it out. Right. And same thing here. Like, we're 31, about to turn 32. Like, we're still very young.
What's the average age?
Average age of a realtor here in Newcastle County is 57.
And she's female.
Yeah. So bit of an anomaly.
Yeah. And that's why I always say my prime is ahead of me, not behind me.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Like, there's some agents out there who, they got into this thing in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. And they, they're hardened from experiences over these times where, they have a clientele build up, and, I'm for sure sometimes they feel some type of way when a younger agent comes in and, takes some of that clientele, but it's the circle of life. I think that there's plenty of business to go around.
It's gonna happen to us when we're old and see how.
It happens, all the time. But just watching, like, when you deal with a good, older, experienced agent, like, they just roll with the punches, and, we all have the same common goal in mind. Like, hey, let's get this thing to closing, and, work for a win-win solution for everybody. So
next would be, what's the most rewarding transaction you've been a part of, would you say?
Most rewarding transaction I've been a part of, I'm trying to think back to like this year. Yeah, because the one that comes to mind was our girl Dafa Shield, but unfortunately, like, she lost that house. So I definitely feel some type of way about that. But rewarding transaction,
We can come back to it.
Yeah.
What would you say is the hardest transaction you were a part of? Most challenging?
Most challenging was definitely this year, 100 Monchan. 100 Monchan and 1618 West 14th Street, which was, I think, 2 summers ago. Definitely.
You don't have to tell us the whole story, but like what was challenging about them?
So it's a very litigious business that we're in.
Yeah.
And our big boss, big head honcho, John Bielik, told me when I first came to Compass, I had a lot of business going on, and I had a couple difficult transactions, and one of transactions on like the other side was like threatening to sue the party or something like that. And John told me, he goes, hey, if you're not being threatened to be sued, like you're not doing enough business.
Right.
So,
And he's like, that's just another day.
yeah, it's another day. In Delaware here, we work with attorneys.
Right.
So, it just comes with the territory here. So
These are very legally binding and important documents people are signing.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And you've seen us, fight for sellers to, keep deposits and, advocate, not because we're assholes,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Yeah. Because, hey,
Have a responsibility.
correct. Yeah. This is what it says. So there's two transactions that come to mind. Were number one, sometimes the contract is like gray and you need to interpret it. It's not necessarily black and white. So 1618 West 14th Street was very gray in terms of like settlement date. And I told this lady, and I was dealing with, an older 80-year-old, almost like retired agent. And I told her, I'm like, hey, look, this thing's not going to close on this date. When we went under contract, like it's going to need, 45 days instead of 30. And like her team lead got involved. They definitely had other better offers than us, but they had signed our offer. So, we were working on that. I must have taken upwards of 250 phone calls over like a 2-week period on that, where, people are yelling back and forth and stuff. And, just trying to like keep my cool with it. And ultimately at the end of the day, we got it sold and settled. I think those people were happy that they sold it. My guy was super happy that he bought it. But, trying to get in touch with, various lenders and underwriters across the country, talking with attorneys, like that was just a wild experience. And same thing this year, we sold this house, helped the family out with a reverse mortgage short sale. And, this is something in my first year, I would have just thrown my hands up. I had, no idea. Right. But you just learn, by experience. So we had done a couple reverse mortgages, but this one was, you're allowed to, if you have a reverse mortgage, sell it to a family member, and then that family member is allowed to buy it at less than appraised value, so 95% of appraised value, and then there's no time restriction on when they can turn around and sell it. So I helped this family get a few appraisals. They came in around 600,000, so he was able to buy it in the high fives, and we turned around and we sold it for 700. So we had to work through a couple different buyers there. It was a little bit of like a cursed property. Yeah, messy. But ultimately, we kept some money from the first buyer, second buyer that is still ongoing litigation. So I guess I can't comment on that too much. So we're figuring that out. But with the third buyer, it closed. I think that they're ultimately happy. They're moving closer to family. This guy was able to put, some money into his pocket. And ultimately, I think that they enjoyed it. So,
would you let our kids be agents?
Yeah, 100%. I would definitely let them have, some sort of entrepreneurial spirit. And going back to it, like, I think that there is, plenty of business to go around. This is definitely a family business. We've seen it with other Compass agents throughout the country. I'll give a shout out again to Phyllis Lynch. So Phyllis has two brothers who are big time agents in Delaware County. And then both her daughters and her son are all licensed, and her daughter-in-law, Haley. So like, they all go to the same family parties. Like, who are they selling houses to, right? But they all do extremely well. And I like that.
Yeah, like if you're a cousin, who do you call?
Yeah.
I guess you call Phyllis. Like you start with the top dog.
Maybe, right? But maybe. Like, do you call Uncle Vince, right? Do you call Uncle Frank?
Right.
Do you call Aunt Phyllis? Like, who do you call?
Yeah.
Right? And then from there, like, do you call Cousin Bern? Do you call Cousin Haley?
So funny.
Like who do you call there?
True. We should ask them. We should get them on.
Yeah. They would be great. But like, I look at them. I look at like a Jan Patrick. Right. I look at, a Stephen Matola, who's taken his previous employer work family, MBNA, and like they've all transitioned into real estate.
Yep.
So it definitely has, a family atmosphere to it. So if our kids wanted to get in the business, I would definitely attempt to steer them towards, a service business, electrician, plumber, trade, roofer, something like that. But yeah, getting into, the family business is something that's, really cool. We're kind of first generation at this. Mm-hmm. So you'd be down. Yeah, I would totally be down for it. And like, I think of my life, at 70, 80 years old, like, when I look at Jeff and Mark Stape, like Jeff Stape is, a third or fifth generation realtor, and then he's got his two kids working with him. Like, that's awesome. Right. Yeah. So. Right. you stay in touch with the kids, you're part of their lives, and everybody's making money, everybody's having a good time, everybody's, helping people out and being good people. So
Right, and pulling each other up on the bad days.
correct. And you would get very exposed if you like word gets around very quickly if you're not a good person in this business, especially here in Delaware.
Yeah.
So I think real estate forces you to
Pick a person.
to pick
Funny.
who you're going to be and be that person all the way through. So it definitely forces you to be ethical, do the right things, even if it's difficult, and go from there. Like I had to tell a lady yesterday, she's like, hey, my garbage disposal went, but I fixed the awnings. I'm like, hey, I'm really glad that you fixed the awnings, but like you checked yes that this was in working order, so like you're gonna need to fix it. I know it's $100 and it stinks, and
Right.
you're
Of
moving
course
in
this
10
happens.
days,
Right. But it is what it is.
yeah, but I
Do the
had to
right
be
thing.
the bearer of bad news. Yeah.
What is your favorite book?
Favorite book? Favorite business book is Who Not How by Dr. Ben Hardy. I need to reread that one. There's a few snippets from it that come to mind. So number one, if you have money and you have a problem and you have the money to solve that problem, you no longer have a problem.
Right.
So using, money as a vehicle in that instance. And then number two, it talked about like procrastination. So people procrastinate for one of two reasons. Number one, they don't know what they're doing, so they're going to procrastinate and try to figure it out. Right. So they just have no idea what they're doing. That's, why they're going to, take long to get it done. Right. Or number two, it's just not of importance to them. So if you have these problems mounting up, and this is like where we're getting into, hey, how are we going to grow this thing? What does the next addition to the Garman Group look like, sort of deal? It's to solve those problems, right? The $15 an hour task problems.
That's definitely the standstill we're at right now.
Yeah, that add up. So if you can find someone who has the knowledge to do something, like Patrick was a who for us, could you imagine you doing this and editing all this anymore? Right, you did the first couple.
I could do it, and I think it would be okay, but it would not be nearly what he's capable
Not the
of.
highest and best use of your time.
Right. It's not my passion.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So
Doesn't excite me.
not your passion. Yeah. And so, if you can bring someone in who can do that, that'd be fantastic. And then like you've seen it, like I'm very big on interns. Like we've had, a bunch of people come in and help
the next
out.
generation.
Yeah. Bring up the next generation. So, hey, like you got to drop this check, right? Well, what do I have to do? Well, you have to walk in, you have to say hello to the front desk.
Some of these people have never mailed an envelope before.
No, yeah.
Stephen Meister.
Yeah, correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Patrick just went to the post office for the first time the other day.
See, right? Yeah. Yeah. So, you got to help these people out with that stuff, and it's all trial and error. So, I learned a lot from running my first business, String and Sticks, where I had to do shipping and receiving. I was stringing sticks all up and down the East Coast and across the country. Oh wow, I strung this stick for $25, but it cost me $12 to mail it to California.
Right.
Like I need to put that back on the client, or I just strung this stick for $7.
Right.
Yeah, sweet. Awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Wawa coffee on me this week.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You ready for some rapid fire?
Yeah, and then I would say that's my favorite business book that I've read thus
Favorite
far.
personal book? Yeah. What's your favorite like nonfiction or fiction book?
Favorite like fiction book, meaning like, hey, just like a good read.
Yeah.
I always go back to it. It was a James Patterson book. And
The Beach Road one?
Yeah, Beach Road. Beach Road was
You made me read it, and it was honestly fantastic.
yeah. Like those James Patterson,
Twist and turns.
Yeah. 3-page chapters. Like I love those books.
Yeah.
And this one was told from a bunch of different perspectives.
It's a good book. Highly recommend.
Yeah, and it was about a young high school basketball star who gets, accused of sexual assault, and he was like, going to go D1, going to go pro, and he's in the Hamptons, and he's hanging out with, like millionaires and stuff like that. And it's a great, like, who done it.
Yeah. Good book.
And, that's a fun one.
Yeah, it's a good one. All right, I'm going to do some favorites, some rapid fires. You ready? And then we're going to wrap this up.
All right,
This is short and sweet today. Favorite coffee?
Favorite coffee? I have gotten into a groove. I like making our own coffee from home with a coffee mate, fresh vanilla. Yeah, that's by far my favorite.
Favorite pizza?
Favorite pizza? We got to go try it. We got to go try our crispy guys from TikTok.
Yeah, we've just started watching these guys on TikTok. What are they called? Crispy
is the name of pizza. Yeah, crispy pizza. Yeah, out in New York and like North Jersey.
Brooklyn.
We gotta go try
It's
it.
in Brooklyn.
My favorite local pizza, hands down, is the Crab Diablo pizza
I
from
knew you were
Rocket.
going to say that. Crab Diablo pizza. And I don't eat it, so it's funny.
It's delicious. It's
a little
so
too
good.
spicy. I don't like combining
It's honestly
crab
better the
spicy
next
with
day.
pizza. Yeah, best day.
The next
Best
day after just sitting out on the stove all night.
Favorite wings
Favorite wings
from the Wing Bowl champ himself.
from the Wing Bowl champ himself.
Keep it moving. We got to wrap this up.
Yeah, wings. I don't know. Like when's the last time we had wings?
This is supposed to be rapid fire. Okay. Best Italian. Favorite Italian.
Favorite Italiano.
You're missing the whole rapid fire point.
I know. I'm missing.
Supposed to be like the first thing that comes to your mind.
Yeah. Favorite Italiano would be Scalessa's.
Good. Favorite happy hour.
Very happy hour. I just love walking into Oyster House outside bar. I think that's such a chill spot.
So lame, but so true. Favorite event, like Delaware event.
Favorite Delaware event. St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, St. Patrick's Day is always a great time. Vibes are super high around the city of Wilmington that day.
That's all I got for you today.
That's all you got? That's it?
Short and sweet today.
Sweet.
Well, thank you for joining me on this episode. I think it'll be a fun one to look back on someday.
Yeah, big announcement. I am pregnant. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm excited. But yeah, this was cute. I appreciate you having me on. Didn't know this was happening today, so looking forward to it.
All right. Well, thanks. Join us next episode. Thanks for tuning in.
Alrighty. Thanks, y'all.